Washington freezes open sky treaty with Moscow and new defense bill as President Donald Trump signed the $716 billion National Defense Authorization Act (NDA) for the fiscal year 2019 at Fort Drum, New York on Monday. The bill funds the Department of Defense as well as funding to accelerate U.S. efforts to field a conventional prompt strike capability before 2022, $6.3 billion for the European Deterrence Initiative (EDI), and will obligate Defense Secretary James Mattis to submit a plan to Congress that would stop Turkey from getting F-35 aircraft if it purchases the Russian S-400 air defense system. An assessment of the potential purchase by the government of the Republic of Turkey of the S-400 air and missile defense system from the Russian Federation and the potential effects of such purchase on the United States-Turkey bilateral relationship, including an assessment of impacts on other United States weapon systems and platforms operated jointly with the Republic of Turkey, the legislation said. The measure also includes $250 million in lethal defensive items for Ukraine. Moreover, according to the NDA, Trump must submit a report to the U.S. Congress by January 2019 regarding whether Russia is in breach of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces (INF) Treaty. Not later than January 15, 2019, the President shall submit to the appropriate congressional committees a determination whether 1. The Russian Federation is in material breach of its obligations under the INF Treaty, and 2. The prohibitions set forth in Article 6 of the INF Treaty remain binding on the United States as a matter of United States law, the NDAA said. In addition, the United States will discuss with Russia if the latter's new strategic weapon systems are in compliance with the new Strategic Arms Reduction (START) treaty. Not later than December 31, 2018, the President shall submit to the appropriate congressional committees a report as to whether the President has raised the issue of covered Russian systems in the appropriate fora with the Russian Federation under Article 5 of the new START treaty or otherwise, the legislation said. The NDAA also notes that the Russian systems of concern include the heavy intercontinental missile system SARMAT, the air-launched nuclear-powered cruise missile X-101, the unmanned underwater vehicle the U.S. government calls Status 6, and the long-distance guided flight hypersonic glide vehicle Avangard. Trump must report if Russia will agree to declare the covered systems as strategic offensive arms or otherwise pursuant to the new START treaty, the legislation said. The White House will notify the appropriate congressional committees as to whether the position of Russia threatens the viability of the new START treaty or requires appropriate U.S. political, economic or military responses, the legislation also said. Moreover, the 2019 U.S. National Defense Authorization Act revealed that Trump must present to Congress within 90 days a report on persons involved in transactions with Russia's intelligence or military sectors. Not later than 90 days after the date of the enactment of this act, the President shall submit to the appropriate congressional committees a report that describes those persons that the President has determined under Section 231 of the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act (CAATSA) have knowingly engaged, on or after August 2, 2017, in a significant transaction with a person that is part of or operates for or on behalf of the defense or intelligence sectors of the government of the Russian Federation, the NDAA showed on Monday. The NDAA also requires the U.S. President to update such a report every 90 days following the first submission for the next 5 years. Meanwhile, the bill also reinforces U.S. partnership with Israel and authorizes co-production of missile defense systems as well as enhances U.S. support for European partners against Russia by funding the European Deterrence Initiative. Particularly, the Department of Defense must submit a report to Congress by next March on the feasibility of permanent deployment of U.S. troops in Poland. Not later than March 1, 2019, the Secretary of Defense, in coordination with the Secretary of State, shall submit to the Congressional Defense Committees a report on the feasibility and advisability of permanently stationing United States forces in the Republic of Poland, the document said. The report required by subsection A shall include the following: an assessment of the types of permanently stationed United States forces in Poland required to deter aggression by the Russian Federation and execute Department of Defense contingency plans, including combat enabler units, in capability. areas such as A. Combat engineering, B. Logistics and sustainment, C. Warfighting headquarters elements, D. Long-range fires, E. Air and missile defense, F. Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and E. Electronic warfare, the NDAA said. The NDAA also explained that an assessment of the permanent deployment feasibility should include an evaluation whether a U.S. permanent deployment would increase deterrence against Russia as well as an assessment of Russia's possible response. In addition, the report should consist of an assessment of the international political considerations of permanently stationing such a brigade combat team in Poland, including within the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, the NDAA said. Notably, the United States will also accelerate its hypersonic missile defense program and provide a report within 90 days to congressional defense committees. Subject to the availability of appropriations, the director of the Missile Defense Agency, MDA, shall accelerate the hypersonic missile defense program of the Missile Defense Agency, the document said. The NDAA requires head of the Missile Defense Agency to deploy such program in conjunction with a persistent space-based missile defense sensor program. NDAA provides 90 days for Missile Defense Agency to submit a report on the hypersonic missile defense program to the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives defense committees. The report, which may include classified annex along with unclassified content, should provide an estimate of the cost, technical requirements and acquisition plan, the NDAA said.